I'd like to talk about three things this morning. First, our theme, Go Global. Secondly, I'd like to talk a little bit about our master planning process, jumping off what Minister Bryson shared with us this morning. And thirdly, I would like to relay a few stories. Reason for Optimism, something that we had an opportunity to share in last week. Before I dive into those three things, I want to first start with a major shout out. I've entitled this "Wow" under my notes. It's a record turnout for Port Days, record attendance, 3 sold-out events. It's a record cruise day today. If you've had an opportunity to be outside, you'll see that we have the Anthem there as one of the cruise vessels, and the Anthem is the second largest cruise vessel in the world. And today we will have over 10,000 people walking up and down the boardwalk and enjoying what the city and probably as far outside as an hour from the city. So it's a big cruise day. It's a record attendance for Port Days. We're going to have 1,000 people at the lobster dinner tonight. That's a lot of crustaceans, and I think we are going to have a great time. So thank you all for being here. It's a good buzz. I really enjoyed our opening reception last night, and I certainly was pleased to see many of our friends and customers in the room. So, welcome. The theme this year, Go Global, is very unique. It was specifically chosen. The panels, the speakers, the theme, technology, advancing, productivity, efficiency, all of those sorts of things, chosen very, very carefully and strategically under the umbrella of Go Global. I sort of look at Go Global as a short way of saying a race for relevance. And for port authorities and for ports, we're looking very carefully at the consolidations, at the mergers, at the continued changes that the volatility of the global market brings, as well as the change in world trade patterns. And Minister Bryson shared a little bit about that with us this morning. But as a port authority, how we look at that is we need to ensure that this port stays relevant long into the future. And that race for relevance is one of the reasons why we are launching into a pretty significant master planning process. We've done a lot of work over the course of the last 15 months internally, but we are now at the point where we are ready to fully engage with our stakeholders, our customers, all 3 levels of government, and there will be opportunity for a very broad engagement, feedback, input. We have a firm that we've engaged to do this work for us. It is WSP Parkers Brinkerhoff, if I've said that correctly, and I was very pleased to meet at least one of their representatives last evening at the reception. So they are here. If you have an opportunity to say hello and introduce yourself, that would be great. It's nice to have them learn about the port in an informal setting before they launch into the real heavy lifting. I'm talking about the master planning. You'd think it was teed up this way. It really wasn't teed up this way, but I was very happy to hear Minister Bryson talk about the opportunity to really look at this process, not just merely as a port authority, but really as a city and as a province, and have a look at our master planning in a very big way. So we will be doing that, and clearly it is going to be something that is much bigger than just the port. So as I say, all 3 levels of government will need to be very actively involved, but also our stakeholders, our customers, CN, pilots, terminal operators, labor, everybody who has a say, who derives their livelihood from this port is going to have to participate in one way, shape, or form in this process. Very important, because we are setting the stage not for tomorrow, but for 10 years out, for 15 years out, for 20 years out. One of the local issues The minister didn't talk about this, but one of the local issues that we face, and many of you face every day, has to do with truck traffic. The city is an old city with very narrow streets where people can still park on both sides of the street, leaving very little room for the cars, the trucks, the bikes, and everybody else. So we fully intend to look very deeply at the issue of truck traffic through the course of this master planning process. So for those who have an interest on that side of the equation, there will be an opportunity to weigh in. We're not going to study the thing to death. That is not part of the equation. There will be a fairly quick turnaround, and we want to be in a position to move forward with options and further this, the infrastructure needs as quickly as possible. I'm often asked, why are you doing this? What's the objective for the port? What's in it for the Port Authority? It's very simple. The first part of the exercise, we need to identify options for the berthing and the servicing of 2 ultra-class container vessels. Last week, I had the privilege of being in China. The Premier of our province, Premier McNeil, led a trade mission. We had an opportunity last Thursday to take him to the Yantian terminal in Shenzhen. And it's the 3rd largest terminal in the world. Last year they did over 12 million TEUs. That day we were at the terminal. They were servicing the Maribo Maersk, which is the largest container vessel in the world, over 19,000 TEUs. And if I'm going from memory here, but I recall it being 400 meters in length, which basically is a lap of a track. So it's a pretty big vessel. The largest we've serviced in Halifax to date is just under 10,000 TEU, just to put it in perspective. So we know these vessels are getting larger. We need to be able to ensure that this port can continue to berth and service. We need to be able to take 2. So that's our objective in the short term, and certainly our mindset as we head into this process. The third quick topic, optimism, reason for optimism. I think you heard lots of reasons for optimism with the Mayor's remarks and with Minister Bryson's remarks, and I certainly did like our Halifax video. We'll have to get a copy of that, put it on our website. Why I want to talk about optimism and my reasons for optimism, I just want to share 3 quick things from last week. The first is we have a senior trade commissioner in Shenzhen. His name is Dwayne Robertson. And I've known Dwayne now for maybe 5 or 7 years. And this time we sat down last week and he said, Karen, he goes, I want to give you some feedback. And feedback being a gift, I was all ears. Dwayne said, Nova Scotia has really picked up its game in this market. You're probably the third best province in terms of what you're doing in this market, what your message is, how you're delivering it, and taking a team approach. So he talked about Alberta, he talked about, I think it was Saskatchewan, and then he talked about Nova Scotia. Our Premier's been there 3 times running. Our Minister of Fisheries has been there many, many times. And when we go, we try to go as a team. So last week, the Premier was there, the Minister was there, we were there. The Nova Scotia Business Inc. was there, universities were there, airport was there. So we're coming and we're talking about logistics, we're talking about seafood, other forms, other agricultural products like Nova Scotia blueberries, which I'll come to in a moment. And we're also talking about education. So the consistency of the message and the consistency of the team is definitely penetrating in that market. So I was very pleased to get that feedback, and I just share it with you as well. On the seafood part of the week last week, we had, I think, 18 Nova Scotia companies, many of which sell through the port or transport through the port and some through the airport. They had record sales, and there was a pub night, and we were at the pub, and one of our Nova Scotian companies had signed the biggest deal he had ever done in his life that day, and I can tell you he had more than one beer, that's for sure. So they were very pleased, and if those companies are winning, then, you know, we're winning too. So it was very, it was gratifying. Now, I'll finish with a final story. We went to a launch, and the launch was of a partnership which had been forged between an emerging Nova Scotia company, a young Nova Scotia company. It's called Juice Nova. And the founders of that company, one is a young Chinese fellow who came to school here in Atlantic Canada. I believe he attended UNB. He met a girl from New Brunswick. They got married, they worked in IT for a while, chucked IT and went into their own business. And they are bottling and distributing in the Asian market wild blueberry juice, and their company is called Juice Nova. The launch was, they formed a partnership with a large Chinese marketing and distribution company. So we attended the launch. It was amazing. They had, it was very cultural. They had the fireworks. They had everything going on. It was very big, done in very classic Chinese style. But why I share that story is not because Juice Nova is sending tons of containers through the port. They will. They will. But I tell the story because it ties so many of the dots together that were spoken of earlier today by the minister and also by the mayor, which is an international student, came to Atlantic Canada, loved Atlantic Canada, stayed in Atlantic Canada, comes with an entrepreneurial bent, forms a company, takes a product, a homegrown Nova Scotia product, sees an opportunity and has launched a business, and he will do very well with it. So I think the combination of those three stories certainly gave me reason for optimism, very motivating, validates the team approach, going there, just pounding away, and also is clearly evidence that it's not just one party. No one party can penetrate any market by themselves. It does take a team. We're very fortunate in this port to have a fantastic team. You know, I can go starting with the carriers, the stevedores, the terminal operators, our pilots, our rail service provider, the folks at CN. You know, everybody really pulls together. And so if there was ever a time to do it, it's now. I kind of feel that we're on maybe the 40 or the 30-yard line. We're so close, so close. So with a little more effort, I think we are going to see very positive results ahead for all of us over the course of the next 12 to 18 to 24 months. So welcome to Port Days. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing all of you over the course of the next day and tonight as well. So enjoy the program today, and have a great time at our Port Days 2016. Thank you.